One.
Hudson County View live at Uncut, and of course Hudson County, John Arhitis, and we're going to be talking about, of course, the latest and greatest here at Hudson over the past 7 days. So first of all, obviously the big news story this week is a rarely seen tropical storm, which throttled back and forth between tropical storm and hurricane. But of course, we're talking about Isaias, and we're going to tell you about the damage here at Hudson County, how many people are still waiting, how many, but the areas where trees still need to be cleaned up, and much more about the impact of the storm, which actually only produced a relatively small amount of rain compared to what was predicted. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the NJ Sierra Club really hitting Liberty National owner Paul Fireman, and we're going to talk about why they're unhappy with a plan from 2017 about expanding the golf course. We're going to also go to Hoboken, and we're going to talk about Mayor Ravi Bala unveiling a little bit of detail about a face mask ordinance that could potentially lead to a $250 fine for those that participate in quote-unquote chronic disobedience. On top of that, we also had a chance to speak with Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop, and we talked to him a little bit about the police department's de-escalation program, and they are moving forward, and they actually have begun the first part of the program that involves Jack Cambria, a former NYPD lieutenant, who is also said to be an expert in de-escalation training. However, the Tomahawk Solutions aspect of the program that would have involved actual live scenarios has been put on hold. So we're going to explain all the details there. And we're also going to, if we have time, talk about a story that just came out minutes ago, and that involves West New York Education Association coming out against in-person learning. So all that and maybe a little more, but first we're going to take our commercial break.
Hudson TMA reminds you that whenever you are out on your bike, there are several things you must remember to stay safe.
That means when you ride in the street, ride in a straight line with traffic on the right side of the road. Riding against traffic is dangerous. It puts you where the driver of a car isn't expecting you.
Meaning he might turn in front of you, or worse, into you.
And you know what that means.
Ouch.
And if you're riding with friends, always ride single file. And here's something else to remember. Always obey traffic lights and signs, and pay attention to lane markings.
When you see one of these, stop. When you see one of these, yield. Traffic might be coming from one side or the other.
Now, since your bike doesn't come with turn signals,
use your hands.
But always check for traffic before you turn. Do this to turn left, this to turn right. Also, some states allow you to do this to turn right, and do this to stop.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, John Arhitis. So you just saw some clips from Jersey City and Hoboken, some of those trees and electrical wires down, of course, due to Isaias. So we're still in cleanup mode, as I mentioned at the top of the show, and as I'm sure many of you are intimately aware. So at the moment, we got an update from the governor at approximately 10 a.m., where this storm, if you didn't know, actually led to 1.4 million power outages throughout the state of New Jersey. We're down to about 550,000, according to Governor Phil Murphy, and PSE&G is still working on this. Now, unfortunately, some people as close by as Greenville have told me that they are expected to be without power through Monday, and PSE&G has went on the record a few times now saying that they expect the vast majority of people's power to be restored by tomorrow. So it just appears that there were just so many outages, they just don't have the capacity to do that any faster than what they're doing. So certainly if we get any further clarity on that, we'll let you know. But unfortunately, if you're without power, it just looks like we're going to be playing a waiting game for a while. So some areas like the Jersey City Heights and Hoboken, they, had a little bit better luck. There were some rolling brownouts. Like I know at my house, there was maybe a 20-minute window where the power went in and out like 3 times for just a couple minutes. And that was it. People have been without power since about 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. So, obviously that's a very wide-ranging spectrum. And on top of that, we've seen these tree branches and full trees coming down in Bayeux, Jersey City, Hoboken, North Bergen. And Mayor Dick Sacco, of course, in North Bergen said that as of this morning, there was about 2,500 residents, give or take, that are still without power. So obviously this is a regional problem for the whole Northeast. But, on the local level, what was interesting, as I also kind of alluded to at the top of the show, was that people were expecting 4 to 5 inches of rain. We only got about 2. But nevertheless, the high wind gusts, which got up to about 50 to 60 mile per hour range, led to a tremendous amount of damage. As you could all see, and as you all heard, there was a video we posted on our Facebook page of an electrical power line that came down and was emanating live electricity, causing some sparks and a little bit of fire as well. So certainly our offices of emergency management, our EMS, fire department, police, all had their hands full. And now the Department of Public Works, along with the County Roads Department, are all doing their part to make sure that everything gets cleaned up safely and appropriately as quickly as possible. And certainly that's done in conjunction with PSENG, who, of course, have quite an arduous task ahead. Now, one clerical note is that there's still a number of parks still closed. Maxwell Park in Hoboken, as well as James J. Braddock Park, West Hudson Park, and Lincoln Park. Just so much debris that came down from the storm. Everybody wants to err on the side of caution there. And you guys may have also seen a story yesterday that a Bayonne police captain, that's James Donovan, was injured actually as he went to an area where there was a call about debris coming down, and he actually got caught under a tree branch. Thankfully, he only sustained a foot injury, but certainly a very unexpected and unpredictable time that it looks like our first responders for the most part fared pretty well. But, that's one unique situation where, there was at least a minor injury. So, obviously the cleanup is still going on, and we're probably going to expect it to go on for at least, I would say, 24 to 48 hours. And of course, if we hear anything more about further closures, we'll keep you posted on that as well.
30 seconds.
So with that in mind, we're going to head to another commercial break from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
We have to be able to police ourselves because we don't want anybody to tarnish our badge.
When internal affairs complaints are not handled properly, the public may believe that most officers commit crimes, when in fact that's not true. Most officers are professional. Most officers do not commit crimes.
If complaints aren't taken properly and the community that we serve doesn't have a trust in the police department, there has to be legitimacy. If the community doesn't trust the police, how could we effectively serve them? And by having a really comprehensive internal affairs unit that handles the complaints properly and people have trust in the system, it enables us to do our entire job as a police department much better.
We need the community as much as they need us. So that citizen that has lost trust in the community could be a very important witness for us tomorrow.
Most women who give birth recover without problems, but any woman can have complications after the birth of a baby. Learn the post-birth warning signs, such as fever, headache, chest pain, shortness of breath, increased bleeding, or thoughts of hurting yourself or someone else. Knowing these can save your life or the life of someone that you love. Trust your instincts. If you feel something is wrong, call and get evaluated by your healthcare provider. If your symptoms get worse or you do not hear back from your physician, call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room.
RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Hudson County View live at Uncut, John Arhitis. So a story that actually came out last week involved the EJ Sierra Club, of course, is an environmental group here in the Garden State, and they were taking aim at billionaire Paul Fireman. He's actually one of the co-founders of Reebok, and he, of course, also owns the Liberty National Golf Course here in Jersey City. So as you guys know, on July 15th, Paul Fireman said that he was no longer going to be pursuing expanding his golf course by 3 holes. That expansion would have went into the Caven Point Peninsula at Liberty State Park. And the reason he gave was a little bit surprising to some. He said he wanted social justice issues at the park to be addressed. So since then, we haven't heard a ton. I mean, that same day, the Jersey City Council approved a resolution urging the state legislature to pass the Liberty State Park Protection Act. But ever since then, it's peaceful until last Tuesday, where Freeholder Jerry Walker, as we spoke about this last edition of this program, he talked about addressing quote-unquote contamination at the park. Well, interestingly enough, less than 24 hours after those remarks, we saw this plan from 2017 where Liberty National tried to acquire Caven Point for about $1 million in incentives, $440,000 of which came from Pinelands land, and that did not sit well with the EJ Sierra Club, specifically their president, Jeff Tittle. So let's talk a little bit about this plan and what EJ Sierra Club had to say about it. So this is Jeff Tittle, and he's saying, billionaire Paul Fireman tried to get away with a dirty deal done dirt cheap. Not only is he trying to take one of the most valuable pieces of property at a state park that belongs to all of us, he tried to do it for pennies on a dollar. He wanted to pay the state $200,000, which is nothing considering it cost $500,000 to join the golf club and $25,000 per person per year. He also offered some land in the Pinelands. This is a park that represents both the Statue of Liberty and the gateway to our country. This shows that not only did Fireman want to destroy the park, he was also trying to buy the land for next to nothing. So EJ Sierra Club was one of the groups that filed a lawsuit in 2018 to obtain a copy of the proposal, which was made to the State Department of Environmental Protection. And in this proposal, Liberty National offered the state a $200,000 lump sum for Caven Point, or $10,000 a year for 24 years, which of course would be $240,000, and Pineland's property valued at $440,000. Now, of course, that doesn't equal $1 million or close to it. And so in addition to what we just talked about, the plan proposed paying for services at Liberty State Park, and that included $200,000 for a jitney service, $50,000 for equipment at the Caven Point Beach, another $50,000 to improve the picnic area, and $60,000 towards the Hudson River Walkway. So, you know, obviously some interesting ideas, but clearly poorly received on the environmental end. And Tittle continued that we have to stay vigilant because people like him, of course, speaking about Fireman, will continue to try to privatize Liberty State Park until we have protections in place. No matter what Governor Murphy says, there is still language in the budget bill that would allow for the privatization of parks like Liberty State Park. Murphy needs to put an executive order in place to protect Liberty State Park, and he needs to support the LSP Protection Act and help it get passed. Now, Bruce Alston, who was on the program a few weeks ago, and you guys that have been following closely know is an entrepreneur who has been vocal about considering public partnerships at LSP, came out completely against this perspective. He said, with disgust, I read the remarks being offered up by the EJ Sierra Club, an organization co-founded by a racist environmentalist. Our issues are real, and with Mr. Fireman stating he is willing to become a supporter of social justice issues, should be met with guarded optimism and hope that he can become an ally of the social justice reform movement. We as the leaders of the Black and Brown communities must not be fooled by oppressors who claim to be our allies but continue to support an agenda which reeks of plantation politics. So as usual, a very strong-worded and pretty unambiguous statement by Bruce. And, you know, another thing that was being spoken about in light of Freeholder Walker's comments is that Paul Fireman actually made a $10,000 donation to Walker's nonprofit organization, Team Walker, in the weeks prior to this new group, the Liberty State Park for All Coalition, coming to the forefront. So, you know, obviously this plan never came to fruition. It didn't seem like it made it particularly far through the process, but all of a sudden it reared its ugly head in the midst of this drama unfolding. The Liberty State Park Protection Act, as I've said several times on previous episodes, is yet to be introduced by the State Assembly or the State Senate. With that, we're going to hear another word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Voting by mail has never been easier. Just follow these steps to ensure your vote will be counted. Open your envelope. You will find your certificate, return envelope, and official ballot. When casting your ballot, use only a pencil, black, or blue ink, not red. Completely fill in the oval to the right of each selection. When writing in, do not repeat a name printed on the ballot. If torn or damaged, your vote will not be counted. Fold your ballot and place it in the pocket of the certificate before sealing it with the adhesive strip. Do not detach the strip and paper from the certificate. Fill out the required information on the certificate and don't forget to sign. If you are not mailing or delivering your ballot in person, make sure both you and the bearer of the ballot sign your name and address on the certificate and return envelope. After that, just place it in the mailbox and your vote will be counted. For more information, you can visit our website at www.hudsoncountyclerk.org or www.hudsoncountyNJ.org.
Cut, Your Highness. So now we're going to talk a little about the Biosquare City. And in what appears to be another Hoboken first, or it could be another Hoboken first, there could be a $250 fine for those that refuse to wear face masks out in public based on an ordinance that is being voted on by the City Council. Now, this was approved on first reading last Wednesday and will go on second reading later this month. I believe that day is August 19th. I'd have to double check that. But at the regularly scheduled council meeting, they'll vote on second reading. So at a press conference about preps for Tropical Storm Isaias, we had a question and answer session with the mayor, which is, of course, standard procedure in these types of situations. And he had some interesting perspective on what this is about and why that this is something that has been introduced by the administration. So one thing that I would like to note is, well, actually two things. So on July 8th, Governor Phil Murphy issued a directive requiring residents throughout New Jersey to wear face masks. That's Executive Order 163, though he admitted at the time that enforcement would be difficult, if possible at all. Now, according to Hoboken's ordinance that we reported on here, the Police Department, Office of Emergency Management, Code Enforcement Officers, the Zoning Department, Construction Official, and any other members of the COVID-19 Task Force would have the ability to issue fines. Obviously, that's a fair number of people, and that sounds like it would be a discretionary type of issue. Now, the mayor was also clear, just to clue you guys in case you didn't get a chance to see it or read it yet, that they still want to prioritize education over enforcement, I believe was the phrase that he used. And this is only a situation where they want to issue fines is if chronic disobedience, or if it's just a type of situation where people don't want to listen. Disorderly conduct, I know, was the other phrase he used. But with that being said, I think we're going to go to the clip and we'll let you guys hear it straight from Mayor Ravi Bala himself.
It's something that hopefully will be in the city's toolkit to contain the virus. Right now, we have formed an ad hoc COVID special unit consisting of various departments within the city of Hoboken to enforce the governor's mandate in a way that is not heavy-handed, but that really emphasizes public education. So we've tasked our regulatory officers, our code enforcement officers, with in a situation where you see someone not complying with the face mask mandate to give people a mask instead of a ticket, or give people a warning instead of a ticket. The mechanism of an ordinance which creates a local fine is intended to be utilized only in those extreme measures where you have chronic disobedience or disorderly conduct associated with that type of a situation. But we hope, the good news is that this ad hoc COVID task force or special unit has received a lot of cooperation from residents when they've been asked to mask up, so to speak, or when they've been asked to social distance. So this is just another progressive measure to achieve greater compliance with the governor's mandates and contain the virus.
So, of course, it's entirely possible that the city council or the administration decides to pull it prior to the next meeting. And, of course, it's also possible that it gets voted down. You never know in Hoboken. But for now, they could be the first to implement a fine in the state of New Jersey. So something to definitely keep your eye on. And on another clerical point, you guys probably know that the last city council meeting was on July 29th. So a reason that this fell a little bit under the radar was, first of all, you guys know from last week that Police Chief Kenneth Ferrante received a new contract, a 3-year contract. The new Western Edge redevelopment plan was approved. So that kind of took over the news cycle as far as the Mile Square City is concerned. And also, this was just a first reading, and it was the last item on the agenda for a nearly 3-hour meeting, which is actually pretty short by Hoboken standards. But nevertheless, it was something that was easy to miss, and something that was brought to my attention, well after the 29th meeting had concluded, several days after. So with that, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back.
At RWJ Barnabas Health, we thank you for all your sacrifices, for staying home, for putting off visits for the sake of others, for sending us food and messages to uplift our spirits. And we thank you, New Jersey, for trusting us to take every precaution as we safely welcome you back. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
It has actually changed my life. It's wonderful to be in recovery. I'm also a grandpa, a great-grandpa. I found joy in being abstinent from use.
I'm a family member, I'm a productive member of society, I'm a dog owner, things like that. I'm a fiance. So I think that recovery means on such a broad scale, there's so many different layers to what recovery means to me.
We're just like everyone else. We have heart and soul. It's just that we have this substance abuse disorder and that we're dealing with that. And if anything, it makes us a little bit stronger.
The most important thing for people in the community needs to know is that they're just like anyone else, and that they don't necessarily want to be doing the things that they're doing, and it's a chronic illness and it's a chronic disease that needs to be addressed as so.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, John R. Highness. So let's talk a little bit about the Jersey City Police Department and de-escalation training. So you guys probably remember back in June, the city announced that they were doing a $1 million, two-pronged de-escalation training program that was going to be engaged in by the entire department, and this was going to take approximately 8 months. And the first part of the program is going to be administered by Jack Cambria. He's a retired commanding officer of the NYPD hostage negotiation team. Specifically, he would teach verbal de-escalation and crisis communication for about 4 months. Then there would be an approximately 4-month session with Tomahawk Strategic Solutions. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because the Jersey City Police Department and other Hudson County law enforcement agencies have utilized them for active shooter training. Now, this plan got slowed when a little bit of community backlash, as well as some from the council. I think that was more private, but there was some backlash on both ends that said that there was some concern about no persons of color on the Tomahawk team, as well as the fact that most of them had a militaristic background. So there's something to think about. But in the meantime, what is more topical at the right this moment in time is that we had a chance to speak with Mayor Stephen Fulop, and he confirmed that Jack Cambria is providing training in Jersey City and that the Tomahawk aspect of the program has been put on pause. So we got a chance to speak to him at City Hall, the steps of City Hall specifically, on Tuesday morning. So we're going to play that clip for you and shine some more light on this situation. One thing, though, that I think kind of was forgotten about was this de-escalation program. And my understanding is that Jack Cambria, the hostage negotiating expert from the NYPD, has actually begun doing some training here in Jersey City, which was part of the plan, of course. So, I mean, if that's the case, could you tell us a little bit about what he's doing and how this will be helpful for the force going forward?
Yeah, so, I mean, we've held off on the Tomahawk scenario training, which was the one that was really being questioned, and some in the public wanted some more clarity, and the council wanted more clarity, so we've held off on that. And we're doing now more just mediation, basic training. We think we have, what's regarded as some of the best in the industry doing this. Ran de-escalation and hostage negotiations for the NYPD for a long period of time. The goal is to make sure that the police department continues to have the resources that they need to do a great job. And we're looking at always ways to improve that. We're looking at ways to, supplement police resources with other resources, but we think that this was a smart investment to make, and that's where we are.
So when did Mr. Cambria start, and when does he complete? And also, does Tomahawk still in the equation?
Well, Tomahawk is on hold now. I mean, Tomahawk has done a lot of work for the city over the years, and they've done a terrific job. So, I credit a lot of the performance and great response that we saw on December 10th last year with the scenario training that Tomahawk put in place. So when we saw that, active shooter and mass shooting situation here at the kosher grocery store, the training and resources we put in with Tomahawk in years prior was tremendously helpful. With regards to the training going forward, we're going to work with the City Council, as we said, and the Black Caucus of Hudson County to make sure that we have a program that everybody feels comfortable with.
All right, so, a couple takeaways there that you could probably figure out on your own, but nevertheless, so Tomahawk training on hold, as we said, but he credited them for doing their active shooter training. He said that was a big factor in the December 10th domestic terrorism incident in Jersey City. And he also said that they're going to work with the City Council and the Hudson County Black Caucus going forward. So there's a council meeting on Wednesday, and that's going to be hosted via Microsoft Teams. And you guys have probably seen that Solidarity Jersey City, a relatively new labeled progressive group that is saying they want to defund the Jersey City Police Department by 50%. I mean, we've seen them at least 2 meetings now. And they're asking people to sign up and speak out against this. Mayor Fulop has said he has no interest in doing this, but the call to defund the police continues in Jersey City, so we'll see what happens next Wednesday. And before we part ways this week, I wanted to again talk about a pretty new story that just went up approximately 1:30. Actually, I'm looking at it right now, 1:36 to be exact. And the West New York Education Association has come out against in-person learning. Last night, the West New York Board of Education approved their school plan, their return to school plan for the 2020-2021 scholastic year. And like most districts, it includes a rotating schedule, A, B, and C groups, social distancing, hand sanitizing stations in every classroom. There's also going to be sanitizers in every hallway, and social distancing and face masks strictly enforced wherever possible. Of course, that's the abridged version. We posted a copy in the story of the 50-page plan. Now, that probably sounds similar to a lot of plans you guys have heard, like in Jersey City and in Hoboken, but nevertheless, the West New York Education Association says it's just too soon to return to the classroom. I spoke with WNYEA President Anita Kober, and here's what she told me. She said, I just don't think this is the right time to be going back in the buildings. Look at what's going on across the state. No outdoor dining. The governor's updates about increased COVID-19 cases and transmission rates. I don't think this is the right time. And if you look at some of the comments on Facebook already, it seems like quite a few people, I think definitely some of them are teachers, are agreeing with her. Now, as it stands today, of course, this is all pending approval by the New Jersey Department of Education. The opening dates in West New York will be September 10th and September 11th. Of course, that's because of the staggered schedule. But she's hopeful that Murphy and other state leaders will start the school off with remote learning. You guys probably know the Bayonne Public Schools have proposed an idea that would have all September classes done virtually. And she concluded that if the governor's not allowing indoor dining, if he's keeping indoor gatherings to groups of 25, how could we be reopening schools? Now, the BOE approved the plan, which now requires a review from the state DOE, as I just mentioned, by a vote of 7-0 at last night's meeting, and trustees Joseph Rodriguez and Damaris Gonzalez were absent. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody stay safe, and we'll catch you next Thursday.